We're miracle makers, right? Do you believe that? Just say, I'm a miracle maker. That sounds very impressive. I believe you. We are miracle makers, and when we really own that we have the power right now in this moment to change our thinking, which is the power that is creative, to change our thinking, which change our lives, which creates miracles. If we really believe that, we can do marvelous and wonderful things. Yet sometimes you and I live in a darker place. We forget the words of Jesus when he said we're made in the image and likeness of God. We are the light of the world. We forget that. We forget that the nature of God is truly our innate nature. But we've been given that free will and that free choice. So if we take a minute right now and look at, well, what is the nature of God? And recognize what's our part to play in that. The nature of God is just two-pronged. God is givingness, and right here, right now, each and every one of us has been given exactly what we need right now for our soul's growth. Now you will notice, I didn't say we've been given exactly what we want, right? It's what we need. Now let me take a little sidestep here. If you hear psychics and mediums talk, or people that have had near-death experiences, what do they experience on the other side? Love. Love. Love is all there is. That's just the truth. Love. Love. So why would you and I, if we came from that place that is all love, choose to be here, where it's more difficult and painful? Why would we choose to be here? Do you ever think about that? I do. Why do we choose to be here? When love is there and we're here. And we get separated from the love and the good feelings sometimes because I think we're here so we can see how the power of love really works. And how the power of love can heal anything if we step away from our expectations and allow ourselves to just freely accept the gifts that we've been given, the givingness of spirit. If we accept those gifts, however they're packaged, and recognize they're here for us. So the one prong of the nature of God is givingness, and the other prong is forgiveness. The universe is never, ever, ever against us. It's always for us. The universe is always conspiring for our good. And if we are willing to own that and live that and practice that sense of forgiveness, that we let go of the separation and the darkness that we may hold in our hearts, the fear, the darkness, the doubt, the whatever it is, and be in the light of forgiveness, we can change everything. Now, today's topic, and I'd like if you'd put the quote up here, Griffin, please. The topic is forgive yourself and others. And the whole theme is joy. And I believe forgiveness is the greatest spiritual practice that we can do to lead us into joy. And it's not something we just do once. It's an ongoing practice. Louise Hay said every day you should wake up and say, who or what do I need to forgive today? It's a tough world. We need to be forgiving all the time. Catherine Ponder was a beautiful prosperity teacher. And yes, prosperity as far as financial abundance, but also prosperity in health, prosperity in creative expression, prosperity in relationships. And here's what she said. When you hold resentment toward another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and to get free. The only way to free ourselves from the confines of our expectations, the confines of our separation and thinking we're separate than our good. The only place we can do forgiveness, and this is what, John, you read so beautifully from our Science of Mind textbook, is right here within us. What we do in here changes everything. And forgiveness, oh my gosh, You know, so many of us, why is it so dang hard to forgive? Does anybody else find it's a little difficult to forgive sometimes? It's a little tough because we think of forgiveness as having to suck it up and just let that person do whatever they want and free them from their problems, and we have to be the bigger person and then. But that's not what it is at all. You know what forgiveness is? Forgiveness is a higher vibration where we choose to let ourselves rise up to a place, a higher vibration where there is no negativity. If you remember the words of the Sufi mystic Rumi when he said, there is a field beyond right doing and wrong doing, and I'll meet you there. When a soul lies down in that grass, ideas, thoughts, even the phrase each other, doesn't mean anything. And that's what I mean by forgiveness. That's what I mean, what we need to do to clear our hearts and keep the doors open to be connected to the love that's ever present for each and every one of us. The problem that I see, we're humans. And as humans, this is what I think, is we really want to be loved and to be loving. Would you agree with me? I mean, that's really what we want to do. We want to be loved and we want to be loving. So when we don't feel like we're being loved, we get resentful and angry. And, we can even get hateful when we feel like somebody's holding something back from us. But can I tell you something? And this may shock you. People aren't here to make us happy. We may think so, but they're not here to make us happy. Relationships and other people are here to help us grow and learn and remember who we are. They're here to reflect us where maybe we're forgetting to be in that place of forgiveness and love. So first of all, as human beings, we feel separate from that good sometime. And then if we don't feel like we're loving, we may feel like we're innately flawed. And then we're not worthy and we're not good enough. And so we just spiral down into these stories. And I don't know about you, but I've had some really good stories about victimhood and unworthiness in my life. Really good stories. And these stories start getting wound up. And we start traveling in these stories, and we get wound up in these stories, and then we become addicted to our stories, and then our stories become who we are, and we're defined by our stories until we're not, until we choose differently. I had a really hard awakening about a victim story I'd had for a long time, and this was about 25 years ago. And I remember it was my last year of teaching in Torrance, and we were at some luncheon, and I was sitting at a table with teachers I really liked, and I started getting into this victim story about myself, and I could hear myself speaking it, and I'm going, why am I telling this story? Why am I so wound up in this story, but I couldn't get off it? I couldn't stop the story because it was who I was. And so I shared the story, blah, 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 blah. And then the luncheon ended, and then I moved down to Orange County, but it always stuck in my head because I felt like I'd really left negative energy in a place that I really didn't want to do it. And one of those teachers that was at my table was somebody I really cared about. Wasn't real close to, but I really cared about her. So I called her about 5 years later. And I found out that she'd gotten very ill and had passed on, and she was just my age. And I thought the last thing I said to her in that table, maybe it wasn't the last thing I said, but the last thing I remember was just all my victim story and my negativity. And you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be the one who just spreads negativity or blah, 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 or victimness all over. So I want to rewrite this story. But it starts with forgiving ourselves. Because if we still carry on, oh my God, can you believe what I did? Oh, and then that becomes another story. And we get wrapped up in all these stories. So I just invite us today, if we're really going to be in a place of understanding that we want our hearts open to that love, which is where I believe we're going. As Rob said, from the me to the we to the allness of love, we need to be able to forgive ourselves. Because forgiveness will rewrite the story we're telling, or it will erase it altogether. And I've learned truly that forgiveness relieves grief, that we carry. It doesn't eradicate it, but it relieves it. And prosperity and forgiveness go hand in hand. And remember, it's the prosperity, I said, that's not just financial prosperity, it's the prosperity of everything. And so if you and I are holding a lack of forgiveness for ourselves in our hearts, we start winding tighter and tighter when we tell our stories of smallness or separation. And it says in our Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says, when we close our hearts to love, when we shut the door, it strangles out life. So that life-giving energy that's there for us, the inspire, create, embrace, we just strangle that down here. So right now, I want you to just take this. Are you willing to forgive? Okay, because it starts with willingness, because if you still want to be that spiral downward, would you leave? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Well, I'm glad you're all here. But just put your feet on the floor. And I'll tell you, there is no size in the mind of God. So when I'm just calling you, unravel and unwrap yourself and open the door to your heart so you're willing, and even if it's a crack, just to let the love in. Because we do the best we can until we know better. And so whatever comes in your mind right now, where are you called to forgive yourself? Where are you called to forgive yourself? What situation, person, incident, where is it that you're called to let go and make more room for love and light and goodness in your life? And just let that situation, whether it be a word spoken, a tiny little word spoken, or a horrific act, it doesn't matter. It's time to forgive and let go and make the space for that ever-pervading love in our life. So I invite you right now to just imagine there's a bubble of light, which we could call love, which we call light, a bubble of light. We've got plenty of bubbles here on our stage. A bubble of light, and I invite you to put whatever situation that is that you haven't been forgiving yourself. And put it in the bubble. Put it in the bubble right now. And then take that bubble, and I want you to it's light, really, just toss it in to the space I talk about, that space, that place beyond right doing and wrongdoing, that vibration where there is no negativity, where there's just opportunities to learn and grow. And just allow this to be a time for greater understanding, greater awareness for yourself. And just let it go and let it dissipate into greater understanding and greater light. And as I said, Jesus said this, how many times do we forgive? 70 times 7, because this doesn't mean it's over because you do this once. It means the beginning, it's an opening, it's a vibration, and it's a continuous process. Forgiveness is a spiritual practice that raises us to a higher vibration, and it needs to be continuous. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong, because stories are important. We just need to be very conscious that we're telling our stories in the right space and place. Because we need friends. We need people we look up to and mentors that are there to listen. We need to tell our story. But we just don't need to spread our negativity, our victimhood all over everyone. So if we do our work on ourselves, which is where it all begins, then we need to look outward and start forgiving others. And I'm going to say right now, we need to let go of our merciless judgment. This world is filled with judgment. It's filled with judgment. We've got to let go of that cycle of hate that just keeps going round and round. We have got to be the ones to be willing to step off that circle and not feed it. So many of us feed that merciless judgment that keeps us separated. We feed it all the time. Instead of remembering, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And what they taught is to forgive and let go. Mahatma Gandhi, when he was assassinated by a Hindu radical, and he was on his dying breath, he made the sign of forgiveness. And I'm not sure what this Hindu sign of forgiveness is, but it was forgive him again. He doesn't know better. That was a lesson for us. A man of peace, a man of oneness. Jesus, when he was dying on the cross, he said, forgive them, Father. His last words, for they know not what they do. We need to be in that place where we're willing. We're willing, and it takes courage to forgive. Because as Rob was explaining, when things crack open, we don't know who we are. Who am I without my story? Who will I be? Well, if where we're going is that place to understand how love works in our life, we got to be practicing love. Not hatred, not separation, not anger, resentment. We got to be practicing that love with ourselves and with others. We've got to be doing the work. And it doesn't, it's interesting because we don't really know how forgiveness works. At least I don't. It's mystical. I don't know how the world works, all of it. I know there's laws that we can use to create our life, but I don't know how the universe is made. Do you? We don't know those things. We don't know how forgiveness works, but I'll tell you what, when we practice it, we see that the darkness, the separation that we were stuck in, turns into light and freedom and something more when we're willing to practice. Now, Ernest Holmes said, love everybody. Right. That can be pretty tough. But I'll tell you what, in the play of Fiddler on the Roof, the town rabbi was challenged by one of the townspeople who asked him, well, is there a blessing for the czar? Well, at that time, the czar was a merciless man who was just persecuting Jews in Western Russia and just terrible person. And it would take a really big forgiving heart to forgive someone like that. But the rabbi said, oh yes, we can bless the czar. And he said, God bless and move the czar far away from us. Far, far away from us. We don't have to be around the people that pull us down. We don't have to be around the people that have the negative energy and actions that really bring us to a place we don't want to be. But we have to be clear in our own hearts and minds. We have to be the ones that choose the better way. Choose a life of prosperity in all areas of our life, which means a greater understanding. So if we're going to forgive someone else, and you may say, well, I don't know if I have a situation or something to forgive in this moment. Think in your own life, because when I look at prosperity, I think of flow. Where in your own life is your life not flowing? Is it relationships? Is it health? Is it financial? Is it creative expression? Right there, I almost guarantee you that there's something to forgive. Because again, lack of forgiveness binds up and restricts our hearts, our minds, and shuts us off from the light, the goodness, the love that's ever present. So again, we're just going to do this one time. But again, 2 out of 70 times 7 isn't bad. So just, again, unwrap yourself. Bring that bubble of light, which is love and light and healing and goodness, and place whatever situation right now that is calling for your forgiveness. Just place that in that bubble. And again, throw it into the space, the place that vibrates in a higher vibration where there is no negativity, no lack, no separation, no darkness. It's just the greater understanding, the learning, the possibility that is present. And so toss it there. Let it go. Let the mystical, magical workings of forgiveness and miracles bring light to the darkness. And let it go. You and I will do better when we know better. What if we know better right now? Would you like that? I'd like to know better right now. I'd like to be awake and aware that I catch myself. Because remember, this is a process we're in. It's not only a process of forgiveness, it's a process of learning. Catch myself. So I can step back and go into that higher vibration. So just in closing right now, I want you just in your own hearts and minds to make a commitment to do this practice of forgiveness. We're advised at night to do our gratitude list so we go to bed with happiness on our heart, remembering all the good that happened in a day. And may I invite us in the morning to just do one practice of forgiveness. What do I need to forgive today? So we open the doors to the love that's ever present. Open the door to the light that's there for us. Open the door to the connections that want to be made and not the separation. So will you just repeat after me? Today I let forgiveness flow.
Today I let forgiveness flow.
I choose to step out of the dark and into the light.
I choose to step out of the dark and into the light.
I am a vehicle of compassion.
I am a vehicle of compassion.
I choose to love,
I choose to love,
to be loved,
to be loved,
and to share my peace of heart and mind.
and to share my peace of heart and mind.
And you know what? I believe you. I see that in you. I know together as we move upward in this light of forgiveness and healing and love, we can be that expression in the world. All it takes for us is to clear our hearts, and we can be the vibration that truly does make a difference. I support you on your journey, as I know you support me. I bless each and every one of you. And so it is.